Over 5 years of farming, and I've visited at least 100 broke farmers. Now, there's something that I've learned. It doesn't matter the type of farming that they are doing, there are a few things that these farmers actually do that make them broke. It's not like they are bewitched or they were born to be broke. No, it's about doing a few things wrong. And in today's video, we're going to be going through these things so that we pinpoint them so that you can learn from them and avoid being a broke farmer. So come on, let's start. First, lack of planning. Now, what I have noticed with a lot of farmers, whether small or big, is that they don't plan. They just go and literally just dive into the pool. They just get outside there and hope that at some point it's going to work out. They don't have goals, they don't have short-term goals, they don't have long-term goals, they don't know what they are working towards, they don't know what their core focus is. I'll give you an example. If you're a farmer and you have cattle for dairy, you understand? You have some cattle for dairy, and then you start raising those cattle, and your goal is to produce milk, you understand? And then when the cow gives birth to some calves, some male, some female, you decide to raise all of them. You're like, hey, well, I'm concentrating in doing dairy, milk, but, well, I'll raise the male one and, sell it for beef. You know what's going to happen? You're going to pay quite an amount of attention to the other one also, because you need to make sure that it's feeding. Cows eat a lot of grass. In order to make sure that it gets the correct weight, the market weight that you're going to be using for selling so that it's for meat, you're going to put it and give it a lot of attention, because remember, it's a dairy cow. It's certainly not going to grow as quickly and as big as you would want a beef cow to do. A beef cow would grow really quickly and put on meat really quickly. But you're now dividing your attention, giving some attention here, giving some attention over there. That's the problem of planning. Or for example, you start out a farm like this one. You want to do chickens for eggs, but then the point reaches and then the prices of eggs start falling, and then you're like, let me just sell these chickens for meat. I get some money, and then let me bring in chickens for meat. You don't have any form of endurance because you didn't plan. You don't know what you want. You don't have goals. You don't have what to focus on. You just don't understand the entire game. You need to plan. You need to focus right from the start. You need to define who you are. It's not like there's no room for changing. No, it's acceptable to have room for changing, but you need to define who you are. You need to understand what you're going to focus on and what you're not going to focus on. Literally, in life, not only in farming, but in life, you have to say no to about 99% of things. So if you're accepting everything or being swung over here and swung over here, you're most certainly going to fail. So you need to make sure that you plan before you start the farm. Number 2 is failure to understand the market. Guys, you need to understand the market. The reason you're into farming is because you want to do business. Who on earth goes to do business without considering who is going to buy from them? How do you just go into business and then once you've started, that's when you start figuring out, who is going to buy my product from me? Who is going to buy my maize from me? Who is going to buy my fish from me? You need to go into this thing when you understand, because it will determine a lot of things. It will determine where your farm is located. It will determine what you focus on in terms of the quality of the product. If you have a market, for example, you're around an area where the market is broke, everyone is broke, they can't purchase. I'll give you guys an example. If you want to concentrate on broilers, for example, and then you want to keep them in a setting like mine over here, I'm in a village setting right here, yeah? You don't have too many places, you don't have too many houses. If you take a look around, this is my fence, yeah? If you take a look on the side, this side, there's not too much, yeah? All you see is gardens as far as out as you can see. What that means is that most of these people don't really like broilers. They don't give a damn what broilers are. Meat is even a luxury. A lot of times they're going to be eating vegetables because that's what they can afford. And then there you are, raising your broiler chickens. You're like, there's no broiler farmer around this area. These guys will buy the broilers. Well, one of the things that determines market is not only the fact that there's no competition. Sometimes there's no competition because people are not interested in the product. So you'll start producing your meat, take it to the market, no one buys it. No one buys the meat completely. What that means is that you're going to get out of business. So you need to understand the market. What's the purchasing power of your market? How far out is your market? Do you need to package whatever you're doing in order to sell to your market? Are there any market trends, maybe at this particular point I need to make sure that I stock less, at this particular point I need to produce more. Those are the things that you need to consider when you're going into farming. Number 3, poor recruitment. I see this everywhere. The people want to hire people to work on the farm, and then they'll just ask, you know, a neighbor, an uncle, anyone. They're like, do you know anyone who can work on my farm? They're like, cool, 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 cool. Send them over, send them over. They come, the guys start working. You haven't trained them. You don't even know where the guys are coming from. You don't know what their abilities are. You don't even know the age of the guy who is working on your farm. You don't know their skill set. That's totally wrong, because on a farm, you can't do everything alone. You certainly can't do everything alone. You need to make sure that you're hiring people, and you're hiring the right people. If you're hiring the wrong people, they're going to steal from you. They're going to mishandle your property, you know. They're going, for example, we have a fence right here. You can see a chain link fence. The very staff you hire are the ones going to cut through it. Not even people from the outside. They're the ones going to cut through it and take things on the outside. You take 3 steps forward, 4 steps backward. 3 steps forward, 4 steps backward. That's the problem of having a wrong team on the farm. So you need to make sure that you up your recruitment game on the farm. Get the right people to work for you on the farm. Make sure that you properly screen them. Make sure that you understand who exactly you want, so that you're looking out exactly for that kind of person. If you want a manager, you're looking out for a manager. If you want a simple laborer, make sure you're looking out for a laborer. You don't get someone who is meant to be a manager and ask them to be a laborer. They don't have the energy, they don't have the interest to waste carrying things. They won't carry the things. Plain and simple and understood. And you don't get someone who is meant to carry things and make them a manager. They are just totally not going to understand the whole business thing. They're going to be confused, and you're going to end up losing. You don't just get an uncle, a relative, someone because they are your friend, and then decide that, hey, this is going to be the one managing my farm. No. Remember, you're in it to make money. Yeah, this is a business. Sometimes relatives are not the best people. Sometimes they are the best people, but sometimes they're not the best people. If they're not the best people, don't hire them. Hire the right person for the job. Number 4, which is actually quite related to number 3, is poor employee management. Now, this comes when you actually have a team. A lot of times, it's actually a good team. So you've gotten a good team, but if you don't know how to manage the people on your farm, you're certainly going to fail. Yeah, I've known a lot of farmers who have personally visited, who have staff, and all the staff keep running away. And these guys keep calling me. They're like, hey, man, this guy left. Can you get me someone else? You get them someone else. They're like, oh, this guy left. Can you get me someone else? You're like, how come everyone just keeps leaving your place? You find out in the end they were not giving the staff food. They were not motivating the staff. If you have poor management of the employees, then certainly the farm is going to fail, because the people need to feel motivated. The workers, the guys who are working inside the chicken houses, the guys who are working on your ranch, the guys who are digging and planting, they need to feel motivated. They need to feel like they are part of the team. You need to define everyone's roles. Don't just hire people and just throw them outside there and they're like, hey, we'll do, you know, whatever and wherever, whatever is available. That will certainly not work. Yeah, give them roles and then tell them that your roles will not be restricted to this. As and of when we do need something else, for you to do something else, understand that you might be called upon to do this. You understand? And so they will understand that right from the beginning. But don't just throw them outside there haphazardly, with no goal, with no role. They are just there moving around. And, you know, if something comes up, you're like, hey, come and do this. Tomorrow, hey, come and do this. They'll get confused. You understand? So you need to make sure that you manage your employees properly. Make sure that you're paying them properly. Understand the market rate on the area. Pay them at least the market rate, you know, at least the market rate. Worst comes to worst, but if you can do a little bit better than that, that would be good. Make sure that you're offering them food. Yeah, the guys are working on a farm. What do you expect? What do you expect them to eat? If you're not offering them food, they're going to steal your chickens. They're going to steal your fish. So you need to make sure that you actually pay attention to them and do proper employee management. How many times do you actually sit down and talk with them, have a conversation with them, find out what their interests are, find out if they understand the goal on the farm, find out if they understand the vision of the farm. Yeah, because people will not work on something that they don't understand. Yeah, if the guys don't understand, for example, that making sure that the grass right here does not reach the chicken house is important, then if you tell them to dig, like we have done right here, to make sure that the grass doesn't reach the chicken house, they'll just be like, why is this guy wasting our time? What's wrong with the grass reaching there? It even looks more beautiful with the grass reaching the chicken house. You need to explain to them so that they understand why they are doing what they are doing. 5, failure to prevent diseases. Now, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're doing crops or animals, a lot of times you're going to encounter diseases on your farm. If you're doing crops, a lot of times it's pests, you know, pests and diseases, you know, a few insects and worms eating your crops over there. If you're doing animals, it's more of a menace in animals because, you know, you'll get a disease coming onto the farm. It will wipe your entire farm. You need to make sure that you learn and understand how to control diseases on your farm. And usually the easiest way of how to control diseases on the farm is through biosecurity. What the hell is biosecurity? Biosecurity are measures that we carry out on a farm to ensure that we prevent introduction of disease on the farm. One of them, for example, is this fence that you see right here. So people can't access the fence from the outside. You know, the guys on the outside can't access the fence. I made sure that the chicken house is a proper distance from the fence to ensure that, you know, if anyone has any ideas of malice or anything, they can't easily have access to the chicken house itself. So you need to make sure that you minimize access or the risk of introduction of disease from the outside. Overalls, let the guys put on overalls. Make sure that your animals are vaccinated. Make sure that your animals are treated. I've been to farms, cattle farms, where you go and visit, the person is saying, my animals are dying, my animals are dying. You go and visit and guess what's killing them? Worms. Freaking worms of all things. Can you imagine? Things that can very easily be treated just once every 3 months. That's all you need, once every 3 months. But this person has taken a whole year, 2 years without deworming the animals. What do you expect? They're going to die, yeah? The worms are going to overwhelm them, feed on everything that they feed on, maybe sometimes even obstruct their gut, and things are going to die. So make sure that you prevent diseases on the farm because diseases can very, very easily wipe out your entire farm, take you out of business, and just like that, you're going to end up broke. Number 6, terrible record keeping. Now, this is something that a lot of farms are guilty of, even huge farms. You go on there, you know, I visit a lot of farmers and I'm like, hey, can I take a look at your records? Maybe their farm is not performing well. If it's chickens, for example, the chickens are not performing well, they're not laying well. I'm like, hey, can I have your records so that I can take a look, see, the entire trend, where the problem has been, and they don't have a single record. How do you expect to even understand what's happening on the farm when you don't have a single record? Sometimes you'll only notice that something is going wrong after it's beyond repair. You understand? If, for example, I expect my chickens to be laying at 95%, and then they're not laying at 95%, how will I know that they're not laying at 95% if I don't have basic records? Because I need to calculate how many eggs they're laying, I need to understand how many chickens I have, and then I can calculate a percentage. If I don't even know how many birds I have on the farm, how do you expect me to understand how many eggs the birds are supposed to lay? So guys, record keeping is so basic, so easy, but so important, very, very important. Simply by looking at a very small chart or a simple trend, you can tell that a farm is in danger, something wrong is happening, and then you can start correcting it very, very early on. Sometimes it's record keeping in terms of finances. People don't even know how much money they're putting into the farm, so they don't know how much money they are recovering back. They are working in losses, they are getting their entire salary, putting it into the farm with the hope that maybe they are getting money because they keep maybe selling eggs or selling milk and they get something back. If you don't keep records, your farm is bound to fail. Number 7, greed. And that's usually in the form of expanding too fast. This is something very common that a lot of farmers are actually guilty of. Yeah, you expand too fast, faster than you can actually handle. Just being greedy. You're like, oh, I have 200 chickens, they're actually laying quite well. I'm getting maybe 180 eggs from 200 chickens. Like, oh my God, what if I had 20,000 chickens? Whoa, I would have 18,000 eggs. Guys, let me expand. So you go and get all your money, everything you could get, go and even borrow from the bank, put it onto the farm. Guys, handling 200 chickens is different from handling 18,000 chickens. Handling 10 cows is different from handling 100 cows. Totally different. The mechanism, everything that you need to do on the farm, the people you need to hire, everything changes completely. So you need to make sure that you're not greedy. Understand what you're doing, understand the speed at which you're actually capable, understand that you actually do have to learn, because if you're not learning, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Understand that there is growth. Understand that when you're expanding, you're actually going to need market. The number of people who are buying 50 liters of milk is going to be different from the number of people who are going to buy 500 liters of milk. You understand? So you need to make sure that you understand all these things. You'll expand too quickly, you get diseases on your farm, you fail to get the market, you completely black out, you've taken a loan from somewhere, and then just like that, you're in trouble. So make sure that you're not greedy. Point number 8, lack of patience. Yeah? Sometimes farmers just give up too easily. They're not patient. Yeah? It's understandable that when you're farming, a lot of times the things we go through are actually what make us better. I personally, the things that I learned and went through when I had hard times on my farms, actually the things that have made me better. The hard times make us stronger. They make us better farmers. Yeah. What I always do is that I make sure that every time something bad happens on the farm, I make sure and I tell myself, this will never happen to me again. It is something that I've learned. I make sure that it's a stepping stone for me, literally a stepping stone. You've heard those phrases, you know, when you're going through hell, you know, keep walking. If you encounter something, make sure that you use it as a stepping stone. What does that mean? Learn from it. Make sure that that thing never causes you trouble again. If a disease came onto your farm because you probably let strangers onto the farm, make sure that that never happens to you again. And what does that mean? Never let strangers back onto a farm. Have measures to ensure that only the people who are supposed to come onto the farm actually come onto the farm. That's very important. So don't give up. You need to give it time. Yeah. I personally have gone through, you know, stress, bad things. Sometimes literally my entire flock was wiped out. I think about 50, 60, 70% of my flock was wiped out from fall typhoid, man. I didn't give up. Yeah. It slowed me down a little bit. I had to take particular measures to make sure that it didn't happen again, but I didn't stop, I didn't give up. So make sure that you don't give up. Number 9, bad security on the farm. Yes, I have a friend, she once called me and told me that all her chickens were swept. Can you imagine? She had about 1,000 chickens and the guys swept around 950 of them. They left her with 50 chickens. Can you imagine all the effort you've put in? The chickens are laying, all the effort you've put in, you've vaccinated them, bought for them feed, you've spent time inside the chicken houses working on them, all the stress, all the labor, all the money you've put into them, and people just come and steal from the farm. Security on the farm is so important, yeah? It's like one way you can actually work for a lot of time, and in just one night, in just one day, you've gone years back, you know, backwards. So it's important that you actually have proper security on the farm. If you don't have like a fence around, maybe you can get dogs, have cameras, you can hire security, have people to live around the area. It's important that you have the right security on your farm to make sure that of all things that slow you down, it shouldn't be theft, honestly. Theft shouldn't be the reason. Make sure that you have proper security on the farm. The guys on the farm themselves can also steal from you. They can steal your animals. I know people whose cattle are consistently stolen by the guys on the farm. The people have goats. The goats give birth to kids, but you never find any kids on the farm. The farm never expands. The number of animals never increases because people are stealing from the farm. So you need to make sure that you have the right security on the farm. Finally, number 10. Is failure to understand the business. Yeah, how do you go into a business you don't understand? You go into a type of farming you totally don't understand. You don't understand how to deal with the market. You don't understand what kind of raw materials you need. You place the farm in a totally the wrong location. You need to feed the chickens this type of feed, you give them this type of feed. You need to sell to this kind of people, you sell to this kind of people. You need to make sure that you understand the business. Do your background checks, read as much as you can about the kind of business that you're entering. Focus so much on learning everything that you can about the business, the financial side of things. Make sure you understand the management side of things. Make sure you understand the production side of things. Focus on learning, understand the business that you're going into, so that things don't just fall on you haphazardly. I've gone to visit people's farms, and then you're asking the person things about the farm, and they don't know. They're telling you, ask the manager. That one I don't know. Ask the manager. How the hell won't the manager steal from you? How the hell won't the manager confuse you? You need to make sure that you understand what's actually happening, the ins and the outs of the business, and then you will succeed. So I hope you've actually learned these 10 things that make farmers fail. Also, I made a video right here about 100 farmers I visited who actually succeeded, rich farmers, and I shared the things that actually make them successful. So check it out, you'll enjoy it. Catch you very soon with another video. Don't forget to subscribe. Lots of love, bye-bye.